Hey, class, just want to take a moment and tell you what great job you're doing and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing in the class this week. We're entering week 6. That puts us only a couple of weeks from the end of the class. So, thank you for paying attention to those discussions, the papers, the feedback that I give you in each assignment, whether you make 100% or less. Please take time to look at that feedback if you're not doing it. And also, if you're not doing the journals, please go back and take a look at those journals as much as possible. Now, speaking of the journals, just keep in mind that those are graded at the end of the class, so you'll take a look. You don't see a grade now, but you will see a grade there very soon. And the reason I don't update those journal grades is because it reflects on your overall grade, and I don't want your grade to look like if I only give you 10-25%, then it brings down the rest of your grade, and I don't want to do that. So I just make them exempt, and then I read them occasionally, offer some comments in them occasionally, which I'll be doing this week, and then grading them there at the end of the course. So let's talk a little bit about your project, if we can, before I bring up week 6 discussion. Remember, a final project begins at the first journal entry. That's where it starts. You come up with an idea about what you're going to talk about, and then you discuss that in the journals, and then as we get towards the end of the program here, the course, you'll develop a plan, a project there that will serve as your final. So what's that look like? It's a little bit different from paper. You know, we talk about the paper. We talk about APA and citing some of that work that we get from outside, and you'll still do that, but it'll be a little bit different from a paper. Now, I've provided an example in the announcements a couple times. Go back and look at those announcements. It's okay this time to do introduction and to have a body. You know, don't put your header as body, but put it whatever topic you're going to talk about, whether it's Al Qaeda or counterterrorism or whatever the case may be, and then have a conclusion. So it's going to be pretty short. However, I'd like it to be fairly detailed about the organization or whatever it is you want to discuss, and then develop that overview. Keep in mind the reason we do that is not just simply to get a grade in the class and to do well here at SNHU is in the course, but really to help you when you're outside, when you graduate, when you're trying to get that promotion or you're trying to get a job that you really want. It helps you to learn how to write detailed plans, procedures, and then in this case present to your employer on a very important topic that you get to choose. Obviously it's related to terrorism, so you get to choose that topic, and you're going to present it there in a quick presentation that you can do PowerPoint, you can do a paper. Either one of those are acceptable to me. What I want you to do is to go back, if you're confused about what you should be doing, is to go back and look at the final project grading rubric, read the instructions, take a look at that rubric, that left column. You don't want to pay attention to the right column because that's not where you want to be. You want to be in that left, shooting for the exemplary grade, making the highest grade that you can, okay? And then develop your final project that way. And again, you'll see that you got to be doing that in the journal entry. So if you've not been doing journal entries, go back, follow those, read that rubric on the final, and get started today. Now, I would encourage you not to wait to the last week to develop this. I've seen students do this. We're all busy. We have to work. We raise kids, all those things that we have to do every day. But if you wait to that last week or two to develop that final project, it's likely not going to be the way that it needs to be. It's not going to follow the instructions of the rubric, and you're not going to do as well as I know you can. And there's not a single person in this class, not one single student that's doing poorly. No one. You're all doing great. I'm highly impressed with everything you're doing. So I expect to see those really highly developed, intense, extended final projects that I know that you have in you that you can do. Pardon me. Again, if you're confused, what I want you to do is go back and pull up that rubric on the final project, read those instructions again, read the rubric, make sure you develop it correctly. Get started today if you're not already doing it. Do those journal entries, And then take a look at those tips that I've provided in the announcements to help you develop that final plan, that final presentation. And again, it's a little bit different from a paper in that you're doing a presentation and you're talking about whatever topic is you have related to terrorism. And then you do that introduction, the overview, and then you conclude whatever it is you're talking about. Now, do me a favor. Don't just do one page, guys. Okay, let's not just do one page. I really want to see those extended final projects, those really in-depth. Do that research that I know you can do. You've been doing it in the discussions in your papers. So go do that research and develop a really good, strong final project. Each one of you have it in you. You can do that and do it well. Okay? So do that. Use those tips. Take that feedback I've been giving you in the discussions and written assignments, those papers. Look at that feedback. Look at that rubric. Look at those instructions, and then develop that final project. And you'll do fine if you follow the suggestions that I'm giving you. Okay, students that typically wait to the last week or two to develop it, you get in a hurry, you're busy, you're working 12, 14 hours a day trying to make a living, you throw something together, well, your grade's going to reflect on that, and I don't want you to do it, okay? Because in the real world, in our careers, when we throw something together, it does reflect. We're not going to get those promotions. We're not going to get that job we want to, that task that we know we have it in us to do, okay? That's why we do this, and that's exactly why I want you to take the time to develop that final project that you can. Again, any questions, please let me know. Send me an email, send me a text message. I'll do everything that I can to help you. If you want to send me an idea about what you're working on, let me look at that first draft. I'll be more than happy to take a look at that first draft and give you some quick feedback on what you can do and what you should be doing. And hopefully that will help you develop that final. So send me those drafts. I don't mind doing it. I'm here to serve you and here to help you do well in this course on terrorism, as well as to help you achieve your goals at SNHU and to help you get that job. That's what I'm doing. Now, ultimately, a degree is not just to learn. We can do that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But also it's to help you to be in a position to present to an employer that you've done something, you can complete those tasks, okay, and you have a little bit of knowledge and background and experience in whatever job it is you're trying to get, and it will tell those employers, I did this, I can do this, and I can do whatever project you give me. So it's all about making that living, doing better for yourself and your family, and whatever career it is you're wanting to work in, or moving to a master's degree, or trying to get that promotion that you're trying to do. It really does show employers that you really do care and that you really can complete a task. Okay, so any questions on the final, send me an email. Look at the tips, look at the instructions, look at the rubrics. Send me those first drafts. I'll help you do everything you can to make those right. So again, good job on everything you're doing so far. Let's talk about Module 6. Module 6 is important. We've been learning about the basics of terrorism. We've learned about the groups and background of terrorism. This week we're going to compare some counterterrorism and anti-terrorism operations. Now, in some of the discussions this week so far, I've replied to some of those, okay? And we discussed the difference and the similarities between counterterrorism and anti-terrorism efforts. So, remember, counterterrorism is more the boots on the ground guys. I did a comparison between the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets, the special ops. It's, counterterrorism, we're out there, we're finding the bad guys, okay? And then the anti-terrorism efforts, we're protecting the homeland. We're doing those things that we need to do to, such as psychological warfare and, gathering intelligence and data to getting with those groups and trying to mitigate some of those circumstances that we have, okay, related to terrorism. So we have two of those, and they have to work together. So if we have anti-terrorism efforts and they're not working with the counterterrorism efforts, then obviously we're not going to do so well in stopping some of those attacks and some of those incidents that we've seen and experienced here in the United States and we've seen elsewhere. Okay, so anti-terrorism and counter-terrorism have to work together. Now, the thing that I've found interesting, and I mentioned this in one of the discussions that's really been interesting to me, is that counterterrorism and anti-terrorism efforts are beginning to be local. For a number of years, especially after 9/11, we've seen agencies such as LRPD and even smaller communities who are working on both anti-terrorism and counterterrorism operations. In New York, for example, they actually have deployed police officers overseas where they are gathering intelligence and sending that back to New York in order to protect the homeland. This is a good example of both anti-terrorism efforts and counterterrorism efforts. The intelligence that they send back, not only to the federal and the state government, but again local, in this case, they can go out and they can knock those doors and find out more information on a local basis, try to mitigate some of that, try to prevent some of the different incidents that could take place, and then finding the bad guys using those counterterrorism efforts. So it's been pretty interesting to me that we've gone from doing this on a federal level down to the local level in many cases. Even in the community I live in, we have this intelligence unit, special intelligence unit, if you will, and their job is to gather that data, gather that information, and conduct those counterterrorism operations and knock those doors and arrest those bad guys when they need to, and then do the anti-terrorism efforts as well in gathering that information and sharing it where it needs to be shared with the boots on the ground. Okay. Now, one of the things that we hadn't talked about a whole bunch is the fusion centers. Fusion centers kind of share information. They serve in a role of more anti-terrorism efforts where they gather intelligence and gather data, and then they send that out to disseminate that to the appropriate groups who can go out and carry out those counterterrorism operations and hopefully arrest the bad guys. So we have the prevention, we have the mitigation on one side, and then we have the actual response efforts, if you will, on the other side, which would be counterterrorism operations. So pretty interesting discussion, I think, this week. Pretty interesting module. Now, I talked about JHATs, and I want you to think about JHATs and see where this fits in. See if tell me if it's a counterterrorism operation, or tell me if it's anti-terrorism operation. What is a JHAT? It's a Joint Hazard Assessment Team. Okay, these teams are made up of, say a civil support team, which I want you to do a little bit of research on that. Well, talk about those civil support teams maybe in the discussions or maybe in a paper. And then it's made up of someone from maybe the local bomb unit, whether that's a police or fire department. In my city, the fire department does bomb. Okay, they're the hazardous devices group. They have a specially trained group of firefighters that are trained, and they're the bomb guys. And not only that, they do all the hazard assessment. What's really cool is that this team, they've completed a reserve police officer class. In many cases, they carry firearms, just like everyone else, a sidearm, an MP5, whatever the case may be, and they are prepared to not only carry out those anti-terrorism efforts, which would be like bomb, but they're also prepared to participate in the counterterrorism efforts as well. So we have anti-terrorism, counterterrorism, and those guys actually do both. Okay, so with the JHAT, we take a member of this team, civil support team, someone from the law enforcement side that's specially trained in how to identify some of those different devices. We have someone from fire or EMS that's responsible for hazardous materials response. And we usually have someone from the FBI or maybe the marshal's office, depending on the community, and they wear civilian clothing. They may have a backpack with some monitors in it or some other equipment. The hazmat guys, which I've told you I'm a hazmat tech, so with us, what we do is we wear civilian clothes. We put a backpack on. We have some different survey equipment, sniffers that can sniff out some of those different materials that's out there. If there's a suspected material, and we go out and take a look and determine whether or not it actually is a hazardous device or it's a chemical, whatever the case may be, and it's related to terrorism. The majority of the JHATs go out. They're at public events. You may never see them, but they may be at large football gatherings or games, baseball games, playoffs, anything like that. We have a big event here every year in May called Riverfest. It's just huge, and you have those there. You may have a barbecue cook-off or a county fair, whatever the case may be, a state fair. Those guys are there. You don't see them. They're wearing their civilian clothing. They got their equipment in the backpack, and they're maybe in the command center at the incident command post, or roaming throughout the crowds, radio in their ear that you don't see, or maybe they operate on cell phones. They get a call and where there's a suspected device or backpack, or an incident's taking place, and they all get together, 4 or 5 of them, and whatever specialty is involved, they determine whether or not this is an actual incident, if it's a terrorism incident or not. So do a little more research on the JHATs if you can. They're a pretty interesting team of professionals that get together. And again, they work behind the scenes. Now, if many of you in the class work in law enforcement or Federal Protective Service or those kind of things, and so you may actually participate in the JHAT, share that information if you can. Obviously, I know there's limited information that you can share, but maybe discuss those JHATs and maybe talk about the counterterrorism and anti-terrorism efforts that you've been involved in, or about, or you've seen, or whatever. If you've been in the military, certainly you've probably participated in anti or counterterrorism efforts. Share some of the information there. We have some very good information that's been shared in the past from our students who have been in Afghanistan, Iraq, and some other places. Share that information with the class, because what you can. Again, I know some information is protected, but share what you can. We have some students that have no knowledge of this, and so you as professionals, you as leaders, take time to mention that in those discussions, if you don't mind. And help us all learn about anti-terrorism and then counterterrorism efforts. I think it'll be a good discussion this week. Many of you have already posted. I've replied to many of those, so thank you for doing that. Now, let's talk a little bit about grading, feedback, and assignments. Please, 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 before you do an assignment, take a look at the rubric first. Read the instructions, read the rubric. Find out what's required of you for this discussion or for this assignment before you develop it, okay? And then develop the assignment, whether it's a discussion, a paper, a blog, or in our class, we have the journal entries. Okay, so make sure you do that. Please use that feedback that I give you to help you get better next time. I do a pretty extended feedback. Not always, but most of them I do pretty extended feedback with each of you. And I do that because I want you to take time to look at it. If you make 100% or you make less than 100% on a grade, please take time to just look over that feedback that I give you. I also do a lot of praise. So if you did really good, I try to put some praise in there and say, hey, you did a great job. And if not, then here's some suggestions to help you get better in the future. So please take time to do that. If you're not doing the journal entries, you've not started doing the journals, please take time to go back and get started on that. That's part of your final project. Take a look at those. Sometimes I comment, sometimes I don't. This week I'll be spending a lot of time in the journals. Okay, we're in our 5th week, so I'll spend a lot of time in those journals and try to give you some feedback and try to help you as you prepare for that final project. Okay, to try to help you there as much as possible. And again, if you have any questions about anything, please let me know. So what else? Let's take a look at APA. I know y'all guys get tired of me harping about APA. You're tired of hearing about it. I get it. I understand it. What is a point in you learning how to cite your research? The point is it not only um, helps you in your research in a class, it helps you learn a material and then share where you got the information from your research. But as I mentioned earlier, it really does help you in your career, because in the future you're going to have to produce a report, a paper, something for your boss to try to get a promotion, to try to get a new job, and they want to make sure that you can do a plan, a procedure, whatever the case is, and do it well, and do it well the first time. I don't like you to come back and do 3 or 4 times. Okay, when you're doing 3 or 4 times, sometimes your employer gets the idea that maybe you don't know what's going on, or you're struggling with that. I want you to learn how to do that research, how to cite that research, how to develop your papers and plans and journals and discussions perfectly the first time using good grammar, so that when you get out and you try to get your promotion or you try to get your job, whether it's in justice studies in the criminal justice world and homeland security, or if you plan on being a psychologist, whatever it is, this should help you prepare for that final job or for that promotion. It really does make a difference when you're able to write those plans and procedures, when you're able to do a good presentation with PowerPoint. It really does make a difference there in your career. I can assure you of that. Okay, I've seen it, done it. I've been on both ends of that, where I've done well, not done so well, had to redo a paper, a report, whatever the case may be. And your employer is going to take a look at that. So that's the purpose of doing research, and harping about our APA is, again, not just demonstrating that you have the ability to do research and find that information and then cite it, but also when you graduate and you have that piece of paper in your hand and it says, I have a bachelor's degree, it demonstrates to the future employer or the person that you're trying to get the promotion from that you have the ability to do whatever it is they need you to do. Okay, you can carry out that task and do it well when you have a good background there with some writing and some practice. Use spell check if you can. I want you to take a look and use that spell check. Check that grammar before you send it to me. It's pretty easy to develop that in Word or Google Docs, and check that spelling. Check your grammar before you send it to me. I'm not looking for perfection. That's why I give you feedback. Okay, if you were perfect, you probably wouldn't be taking a class. I grade pretty easy. Okay, because I like to teach, I like to share, I try to help. Okay, as I've said in the past, it's not just about you getting the grade, whether it's high or low. It's about me teaching and sharing and helping you learn the information about terrorism and preparing you for the future in a career or whatever you want it to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, that's what I want to help you do. Okay, so now that we've discussed that, if you ever need me to write a reference for you for a job, an internship, trying to get a master's degree, any of those things, please let me know. I'm here to help you. I have students do it all the time. I had 2 students come to me this week that were past students several classes ago, and they said, hey, you probably don't remember me, but here I am. Okay, well, guess what? I'll go look you up. I remember my students most of the time, but if I don't, I'll go look you up, take a look at the work you did, take a look at what you contributed to, how you did with not just your grade, but what you contributed to, and then I'm going to draft you a really cool reference letter and try to help you get into that master's degree or help you get that job. Okay, so you can always reach out to me even after the class is over. If you ever have any questions about career advice or any questions whatsoever, please reach out to me. I'll do my best to help you. If I don't know, we've got a heck of a team here at SNHU in the criminal justice program that can help you with justice studies. We can get you an answer. We've got retired police officers, people that worked in Homeland Security. We have attorneys. We have a whole group that's willing to help you as a student. So if I don't have the answer, I'll find someone that does, and we can do everything we can to try to help you get where you need to be. I hope everything's going good for you. If you're not happy, if things are not going good, you don't like my grading, you don't like the feedback, anything you don't like, you're not happy about, or if you are happy, please just send me an email. Those discussions are between us. If you need to vent, you're mad at me about something, send me an email and vent. Just be respectful if you don't mind. And I can assure you that none of those conversations will reflect on your grade. Okay? That's the way I operate. So if you get mad at me or you have a question or comment, whatever, send me an email. We'll discuss it. And it's not going to reflect on your grade. It doesn't work that way. Okay? It's okay to vent. I understand. I've been there. I know what it's like to try to be in a bachelor's program and try to pay the bills and work, do the things that we need to do, raise families, whatever the case may be. So I want you to take time and send those emails, ask me those questions, vent, whatever you got to do. I'm here to help you. So thank you so much for taking time to listen to this video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. I'm here to help you. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And again, if I can ever be of service to you, please let me know. And please look at that feedback. Y'all guys have a great week. I'll see you in the discussions. And send me a text, email if you need me. Thank you so much for taking time to watch the video. And I'm sorry it took up so long. I know it's about 25 minutes. Usually I try to do about 10. So thank you for taking your time to listen to this. Look at the announcements. Look at those tips. Do the journals. Do the extended discussion. Include those citations. Look at the feedback. And have a great week. Thank you.